Khash Saghafi, Liberty Home Mortgage. And what am I talking about today? How can closing costs be handled? I just talked to a buyer the other day, as a matter of fact. They're like, Khash, but I have to pay closing costs. You don't have to. I will tell you, in a competitive market, it's better if you cover your own closing cost, okay? The less you ask for from, think of it this way, for goodness sake. The less you ask for from the seller, the higher over the list price you go. The less inspections and requirements and strings attached, and the more money down, if not cash. And the faster you close. For goodness sake, go tell them you're going to pay cash $50,000 over list and close it that afternoon the same day. They'll be throwing flowers at you, okay? So naturally, the more you ask for from the seller, the harder it is to get them to take your offer, especially in a competitive market. So closing costs, let's talk about closing costs. How can closing costs be handled? I have a ton of videos on the 3 things it takes to get a mortgage loan: credit, income, and money. When it comes to money, I have a video specifically on what are the 4 parts to the money, okay? So I break all this stuff down for you. One of those parts is closing cost, okay? You need closing cost. Any lender out there, any bank that says we don't charge anything, they're getting it somewhere. Somewhere, somehow, it exists, okay? In some way, shape, or form, closing costs and fees exist. Forget the lender closing cost. Let's talk about the recording fee of the county. Every county in America, doesn't matter where you are, you're in Washington, Oregon, New Mexico, Idaho, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. I can't give you all, if I thought about it, I'd give you all 50. But anyways, every recorder's office charges money to record your mortgage. That's a fact. You're going to need a survey. You're going to need title insurance. You need a bunch of stuff. There's fees associated to it. How can those get handled? Okay, one, you pay them. You come up with the money. When you're talking to a loan officer about how much money do I need to get this done, watch my video on the 4 pieces of money. I go through each one of them in detail, okay? Let's talk about the closing cost. Number 1 choice, you pay them, okay? You come up with the money. Number 2 choice, you get a gift from a family member. Your parents give you the money for it. Well, I've got the down payment. I need money for the closing costs. My mom's giving me the money for the closing cost, okay? So you get a gift from a family member to cover the closing cost. This is the big one, okay? And I will tell you, half of my transactions that I do personally have the seller covering the closing cost. And if you're a real estate agent out there watching this and you say, Khash, what seller pays the closing cost? I'll show you 50% of them that do. Go ahead, call me. Get a hold of me. I'll walk through my deals and I'll show you who's paying closing costs. And by the way, if you're not getting any closing cost ever on any transaction you representing a buyer, you're either not representing enough buyers or you're not working hard enough, okay? So yes, sellers pay closing costs. So let's talk about the seller covering the closing cost. Let me explain the math behind the closing cost. Let's pretend the list price of a house is $200,000. So the house is listed at $200,000, okay? Let's pretend the closing costs are $5,000. I like nice, easy, round numbers. Write this down at home, okay? The list price is $200,000. The closing costs are $5,000. You want the seller to cover the $5,000 for you because 1, you don't have it. 2, you can't get it anywhere else. So it's got to come from somewhere. Let's get it from the seller. It will come out of the proceeds of the sale from the seller, okay? The list price is $200,000. The closing cost is $5,000. Let's pretend you look at the house. The house has been sitting on the market for 3 months. It's outdated and it needs a lot of work. And you go and say, I'm going to give this guy $190,000. So I'm going to give him $190,000. Keep this in mind and write this down. This is where this closing cost stuff comes in. If you offer $190,000 and ask the seller to pay $5,000, your loan is $190,000. The seller walks out at $185,000. Okay? So the purchase price you offer, that's the purchase price, everybody. That's it. When you buy this house for $190,000, if they accept it, it's conveyed and transferred to the county, and the county will show that you bought it for $190,000. However, before that $190,000 goes to the seller, okay, step 1 is it's bought for $190,000. It's conveyed at $190,000. Step 2 is The 190 goes to the seller. But before the 190 goes to the seller, if the seller agreed to take out $5,000 from their 190 to cover your fees, the seller walks out the door at 185. Okay? Now watch this one. The list price is 200. The seller might say, listen, 200 is 200. I'm not going a dollar under that. Okay? You came in at 190, asked for 5,000, thereby giving the seller 185. The seller counters you at 200 and says, I'm not going a dollar under 200. Okay? This is your counter because you need the $5,000. You counter back at 205. Your purchase price is 205 before, so you buy it for 205. Before the money goes to the seller takes out, well, the title company does technically, title escrow company, they take out 5,000 from the 205. They give that difference to the seller. That 5,000 covers your cost. You bought it for 205. The seller walks out the door at 200,000. That is how that works. Now, the thing to pay attention to, and I have videos on this, the question becomes, Khash, will the house appraise at 205? Don't forget it's listed at 200. With a high probability, 200 is it. If the house does not appraise at 205, you're in luck because I have videos on what are your 5 choices if the appraisal comes in short. But you got to watch those videos. So, did I explain all that stuff to you? We talk about if it doesn't appraise later, okay? That's how closing costs works. Simplified, easy, understand it. At the end of the day, subscribe to my YouTube page, like, comment, share, and if you need a loan, I do loans in 45 states, and I'll catch you later.